Most people don't know what's holding them back, but you do because you listen to me, Sam, your self-care guru and journal junkie. Welcome to Journal Entries, your safe place where you can tune in weekly to get tips, tricks, and journal prompts to uncover your feelings, gain clarity, and make your move. Which happen every month because it is a great time to reflect and manifest, and there's just a lot of evidence. All of these new moons, full moons, super moons, and eclipses are said to have a profound inward pull on our consciousness and our mood and emotions, and the energetic effects can occur up to 2 or 3 days before through 2 to 3 days after the new moon, or in this case, the eclipse that we're going to be experiencing. And so when the energy is so high with these lunar cycles, hello, welcome to this week's journal entry. This one might be a little woo-woo because we are going to get into the total solar eclipse that is happening on April 8th. According to Fred Whipple's book called Earth, Moon, and Planets, solar eclipses are actually fairly common. They happen about every 2 to 5 years. However, solar eclipses are like total solar eclipses are very rare, and the next one won't be visible until August of 2044. And annual eclipses, that's where the moon can't completely block the sun, so it's not a total eclipse. That one still won't appear across this part of the world until 2046. So kind of crazy, but I'm excited about this total solar eclipse because over the past year, I have been journaling, but specifically finding excitement around journaling with new moons and full moons. It's because eclipses and all these other types of powerful moons are said to have a profound inward pull on our consciousness, mood, emotions, thoughts, beliefs, all the things. And the energy is like surrounding it before and after it actually happens. So why is journaling during these times so profound and so powerful? Is because lunar cycles, or the moon, has been credited to have that energy and the power to impact our emotional state. Mostly inspiring creativity, but also stirring up what needs to be released, what is no longer serving us. And so it's kind of like a new chapter. Eclipses are the ending of one thing and the beginning of another. At least it can be viewed in that way. And it's like tying up loose ends that just truly, like I said, aren't serving us. They're doing more harm just being on your mind and heart and thinking about it and being a part of your life than good. And so it's a great time to just release and then start fresh. Meaning this is a perfect time for self-reflection. You could totally just experience this total solar eclipse and think, oh, that's really cool. It gets dark for a little bit, especially if you live near me, near Buffalo, New York. It's going to be, the path is through Buffalo. So that's really exciting. And you could, again, just look outside and realize that it's dark and it's pretty cool. But if you choose to spend the time starting now through about 3 days after the eclipse, to self-reflect and to ask yourself the questions and to turn inward instead of staying on autopilot, to ask the hard questions, to take a pulse on your life and how you're actually feeling, it might change some things for you. Doing this even if it wasn't an eclipse, it will do this. But during an eclipse, especially, it helps us align more closely with our true desires, our true needs, ones that we often forget or neglect or just, you know, miss. We're not paying attention to them when we're in the daily grind, when we're moving about our day unintentionally. The energy and the power of a regular new moon that happens mostly every month lasts until the next lunation, which is a time period of about 14 days, 2 weeks. But with eclipses, it's like 10 new moons in one. And that energy and self reflection that you do can affect you for 6 to 12 months. So, what you do through these journal prompts and just in general, like where your headspace is at, can, in fact, change the way that you show up, change how your relationships are, or at least how you perceive them and the effort that you put in for up to 6 to 12 months after this eclipse, not just 14 days like usual. There is an astrologist named Susan Miller, and she said, eclipses are some of the most dramatic tools that the universe uses to get us to pay attention to the areas in our life that needs change. They uproot us, surprise us, and get us moving. They shake us out of our feelings of compliance so that we can move from one level of maturity to another, to a higher plane, and they work very rapidly if you are intentional. Solar eclipses only occur during a new moon, kind of like lunar eclipses are for full moons. But the new moon represents new beginnings, like when one chapter in your life, one event or, anything you've been going through comes to a close, and then a new one begins. And the solar eclipse is like a new moon amplified, if you can't tell already. So the new moon is that time to get clear on what is it that you would like to start. Also, what is it that you would like to close? What chapter would you like to close? Whereas new moons are really great for that. Full moons is where you would dive more into manifesting and visions. So with this total solar eclipse, we are going to be gaining clarity and, diving into amazing stuff, but not without first unclogging what's currently keeping us feeling stuck and hesitant or walking on eggshells or people pleasing or whatever it is. Honoring the hard stuff that you're going through right now or that you've been feeling for a while before getting into what it is that you want, what it is that you need, those desires will clear the way so that you have more energy and brain space to actually make those things come to life. I believe that there's really 3 steps to this process. The first is to reflecting on our habits, on our thoughts, on our goals. The second is to releasing what isn't serving us, releasing what's holding us back, also releasing what's consuming too much of our mental headspace. And the third is realigning with what you actually want and what would excite you. What do you actually want to do? And also, what do you need in your life right now to get to that next level? So I want to give you a few prompts to get started. I do have a list of 6 prompts for each of those sections for reflecting, releasing, and realigning. If you click on the link in my show notes, the ones that I'm about to give you are just bonus ones because there's so many incredible ones. And this list will also be in the show notes. So basically just click the show notes right after you leave a rating and review. All right, so diving right in. Reflection. 2 prompts here for you. How have you been feeling recently? And by recent, I mean the past year, but also few years, right? And the second one is, what in my life is reaching an end or completion? This could be something like a certain situation or a thought or a relationship. And this is where it might not be something that happened this year or last year. It might be something, from the pandemic that you feel like you're finally like it's ending, like this is the chapter that might be closing, you're moving in a new direction. And also tying it back to that first one, how have you been feeling recently? Again, it could be, today or yesterday, but also think back. And is there anything that you have been feeling and heavy on your heart that could be coming to an end, coming to a completion, releasing? What has been consuming most of your mental space lately? And is it beneficial to continue to think of this, or is it time to let it go? If it is time to let it go and it's not been beneficial for you, then another prompt is what type of closure, if any, do you need in order to release it? This might be closure from somebody else. This might be closure for yourself, from yourself, like within you, or many other types of closure. What is it that would help you actually complete this chapter and move on? And then realigning. If I could live my most wildest dream life, it would look like this, dot, 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 and be as specific as you can. Really have fun with this one and think about who is with you. Where are you? What's happening? It's something small that you do. Like maybe you are on the beach with your family and you open up your bank app on your phone and you see money deposited in, right? Like really hone in on that vision. That would be like the coolest thing for you and your life. And secondly, how can you shift your routine or your boundaries or anything else that comes up for you? How can you shift that even just slightly to ensure that you follow through to getting closer to that dream life, to that wildest dream? So those are two quick ones for each of the section. I have 6 more for each of those sections that you can do starting now, again, through about 3 days after the eclipse. And you don't have to do them all right away. My only recommendation, if you do download the PDF, is that you do them in order of reflect, release, realign. You can do all of the prompts in each one, or just pick the ones that you feel pulled to, that you feel like you have an answer for, and journal through those. But if you start now through the next week, you will just feel so much more intentional that you will start to also feel more aligned and patient and calm and also energized and like you have what it takes to do the thing that you want to do to get there, because this is a fresh start, or it can be your fresh start. If you start journaling and you do come up with some not so happy moments with your self-reflection, just know that it's coming up for you so that it can come out and you can move on. When we don't address those quote unquote negative feelings, it's almost like we are pushing it under the rug and it's still there. It's always like on the back of our mind. Maybe it's really far back, but it's still there. Whereas when we actually think of it and process it, then even just writing the words, I release this now, feels like you can actually let it go versus just like hiding and being, oh yeah, this happened one time. You feel like you've shifted through it, learned from it, and you can move on from it. So it's okay to experience any type of emotion. Another thing that I want to point out is that you literally cannot journal wrong. I've had conversations lately, and some women are afraid to journal because they think they're going to do it wrong in some capacity, like they're going to not make any sense. And I'm like, well, you don't need to make any sense to anyone but yourself because nobody's going to see this. You don't even have to read it. So as long as your brain knows what it's writing or it's just like getting out, then you're good to go. Or some women say that they don't write very well. They're not great with grammar. Again, nobody's going to see this. My handwriting is so messy. I misspell words constantly. You, again, don't even need to go back and read it. So just like write what comes out, and what comes out is the right thing for you. And it will lead somewhere, either within these entries or maybe even down the road if you do continue to journal. I hope that this was an exciting episode for you, and I would love to hear if you do, in fact, journal through this eclipse week. It can be such an exciting time, and I'm excited to hear what transpires for you. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's journal entry. I love connecting with my listeners, so make sure you screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at samantha.s.says so I know you're listening. And don't forget to grab your free training and journal prompts at www.samanthapenkoff.com/podcast.